And if you can understand the feeling of when you feel the electricity of the hair rising on your arms, and you can feel the little charge going through your body, when something beautiful happens. And that's how I felt. And sometimes, your words can never express how the heart feels sometimes. And the only way that your body can express what the heart is really feeling is for the eyes to cry. And at that time I just began to cry, thinking about what was going on there, and thinking about the great blessing that Allah had given me with this thing called Islam. Well, I had been giving you a little information on about how I accepted Islam and what some of the things that took me to that. And I have met so many people whose stories are so much like mine, that they were going through hardships in their lives, or that they were just searching. They felt like they were filling their lives full of things, but none of those things that they were trying to fill their lives with could capture what Islam captures within the individual. And I would always say to people sometimes that if you have something better than what I have, and I'll make that challenge to anybody today, anywhere, that if you have a way of life that is better than Islam, bring it to me, show it to me, because I'm interested in it. Because I haven't, up until this moment, to this day, anywhere, found anything as complete as Islam is. And until I found Islam, or Islam found me, because I thought I was going in one direction, but I was actually being moved into another direction. That's why I say it found me. And at that point, I kind of opened my eyes and said, oh, here it is. When it has been standing there the whole time, from the time I was in the 11th or 12th grade in high school to when I accepted Islam when I was 31 years old. There is 13 or 14 years time span in between that time where Islam kept coming to my path, but I kept turning it down. And I didn't realize it until you don't realize it until you talk about your journey to Islam. Till you look back at your life, and you look back on the road, and you see that there's so many things that happened to you that was trying to guide you to Islam that you were paying no attention to. And I can give you another example of that. I was in England when all of these things were happening to me, and at the time, of course, I wasn't a Muslim, and I had been sitting at a pub, and I was in that pub drinking a beer, and someone walked up to me and sat in a chair next to me. I don't remember his name. I don't remember anything about this person, but he said to me, "You are not far from where you want to be." I don't remember anything except for him saying that to me. And like I said, at the time I was sitting there drinking a beer, contemplating what am I going to do in my life. And he said, "You're not far from where you want to be." And the next thing I know, I got the assignment to go to New Mexico. And at that place, New Mexico, Islam was there waiting for me. So you never know what is going to happen to you in your life. And you never know when the guidance of God is going to come to you, and that guidance is going to be staring you in the face. But be sure that it's going to come to you more than once. I had a friend of mine it was in Korea, and it's a female, and they were a minister in the church. And they felt like they had that hole in their heart also. And they said to me, I'm a minister in a church, and I had met this person, and we got along real well, and I told them that I was a Muslim. And when I told them I was a Muslim, their face became dark, because they just couldn't understand a Muslim being the type of person that I was, I guess, that they saw me as. And I said to them, I said, Islam is not as strange as you think it is. When you leave here, the person was an airline stewardess, by the way, and I said, when you leave here, what I want you to do is I want you to ask God for guidance, and then you see what happens. And so she said that she was going to pray to God and ask him for guidance. So she prayed to God and asked him for guidance, and I didn't see her for another probably 4 or 5 months. And then the next time I saw her, she kind of avoided me. And I said, "Why are you avoiding me?" She said, I knew you were going to ask me what happened to me after the last time I saw you. And I really didn't want to tell you. I said, "Now I must know what happened to you. Tell me what happened to you." She said, "Well, I was an airline stewardess flying out of Philadelphia. And after I made that prayer asking for guidance, I ended up getting assigned to a crew that was flying Muslims to Hajj in Saudi Arabia." And she said, "So every day I got to see Muslims who who were flying to Hajj and talk to them on the plane and see and hear some of the things that they were doing. And got to go back and forth from Germany to Saudi Arabia, Germany to Saudi Arabia. And she said, after that happened, I went back to my apartment after the Hajj season was over. And I met a lady that lived downstairs from me. And the lady was a Muslim. And she used to talk to me about Islam and the different things. And then she said, the last thing, or another one of the things that she said happened to her is that she had a dream. And she said, in my dream, I was wearing a scarf over my head. And I was wearing something covering my face and only my eyes were showing. And I said, and she said, it was long flowing so that only that part of my face and my hands were showing. And I said, this is the wear of a Muslim woman. This is the hijab and the veil. And she said she was so surprised at these different things that were happening. But as most people, the biggest problem that a lot of people have when they encounter Islam, or when Islam encounters them, is the same problem or the same situation and issue that have faced Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, and the first Muslims, and that is your family. Her family, her father was a preacher, her sister was a preacher, their family had their own church, and it was very difficult for her to accept these things of Islam because of her family keep pulling and tugging at her, even though her heart was telling her something totally different. So I'll say to all of the people who are out there in search of the true meaning of what this life is about. It's not about being a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a housewife, or whatever. What the true meaning of this life is about, I'll say to you, is that it's something that you cannot feel with something that you can put your finger on. Even though that thing that feels it is almost endless. And it is something that you'll never be able to buy in a store. You'll never be able to take it out of a book. It is something that when it grabs hold of you, when you have tasted it, it's just like when you have tasted some sugar, everything else becomes bitter to you. And that's how Islam is. When you have tasted the sweetness of Islam, the sweetness of faith, there is nothing else that will fill that void in your life. And I would say to everybody out there, whether you ever accept Islam or not, whether you believe what I'm telling you or not, seek it for yourself. The only thing that you have to lose is that you didn't try to find it. Because we are going to always be able to buy cars, to have houses, to have families. But the question of why we really are here, why are we really in this life? Why are we really the type of people that we are? And to try to find an understanding to that thing is something that you will never be able to find or read in a book. It is only fulfilled by something that lies within yourself and within your spirit. I thank you for listening to my story. I hope that it inspires someone in some way. And I pray that Allah will forgive me for anything that I've said or that I've done that is incorrect. Thank you.